Firstly, thank you to the Able Tasman Club for hosting us today. They knew Yopi well, so it seemed a fitting place to hold this occasion.
Diane, can you put a mic bit closer? Closer.
Mine has to be turned up. Turn it up a bit.
You have to keep it close, apparently. I would like to thank Yvonne, who is responsible for organising today. She's lucky that, for the most part, Yopi didn't dictate what she wanted for this get-together. My name is Diane, and I was friends with Yopi for 28 years. Thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of our dear friend and colleague. It was Yopi's wish not to have a funeral, but for her friends to get together and celebrate her life, to drink and eat together, to laugh and recall the good times we had with her. Yopi was born in Zeist in the Utrecht province of the Netherlands on January the 23rd, 1961. It was a bitterly cold day with snow on the ground. Yopi's mother, Meta, was being attended by a nurse and doctor, while Yopi's father, Hendrik, was pacing up and down the hallway outside the bedroom. Suddenly the door opened and the nurse handed Yopi to Hendrik. Then the doctor called out, "Quick, there's another one." Hendrik placed Yopi on the dresser and ran into the bedroom. Yopi's account of their birth is that her being left out in the cold in favour of her twin brother was a sign of things to come. If you ask her twin brother Rick, he claims Yopi elbowed him out of the way so she could be born first and be the eldest. Yopi described herself as a bookish child and spent many hours sailing with the family. She studied journalism and got a cadetship with the Herald Sun in Melbourne. Yopi met Peter, who was from New Zealand, and they travelled around Australia together. They also lived for a time in the Netherlands where they married, eventually settling back in Melbourne. I met Yopi in 1994. I had just arrived in Australia with my now ex-husband Howard. We had friends from the UK who were in Melbourne, staying at the Coffee Palace Backpackers in St Kilda where Yopi worked. When we arrived, our friends had already got to know Peter and Yopi, and the four of us became firm friends. Yopi was proud to be an in-your-face, rub-you-up the wrong way, irreverent Dutchie. She loved to shock people, to push her buttons, and liked nothing better than to find someone who got her and would engage in banter with her. This included taxi drivers, shop assistants, and just random people in the street. She would talk to anyone. She loved to tell stories, and like the journalist she was, never let the truth get in the way of a good tale. Yopi could be brutally honest, had little respect for rules and any level of authority. She was never happier when she could get involved in people's lives and give advice, regardless of how it was received. She was pedantic and liked things to be done her way. She frequently sought advice, but if she didn't like the answer, she'd completely ignore you. She was also kind, a good friend, and would always have your back. She opened her home to many people over the years and would always be there for someone in need. She had so many friends from all walks of life, and there were numerous people who were touched by her, even if they knew her only briefly. Yopi was a sucker for a lost dog, and over the years gave a loving home to many sick, old and discarded dogs, and in recent times cats were added to the household. Some dogs were hers, some just passing through, some were temporary visitors who never seemed to leave. For many years, Yopi didn't seem interested in having children, but was delighted to become a mum to Summer late in life. As you would expect, she wasn't a conventional mother, but in her words, loved Summer to the moon and back. I can see her strength of character in Summer today. Understandably, Yopi was very concerned about Summer's future, but she needn't have worried. She's doing well, and her mum would be very proud of her. I talked to Yopi about what I would say today, and she asked me to record a particular story. Please excuse the non-PC nature of this tale, but it did happen 28 years ago, and we're talking about Yopi here. Yopi, Peter, and Howard and I were at a country fair at the Caulfield Racecourse. We were looking at the children's petting zoo, and Peter remarked it was unfair that it was just for children, as plenty of adults would like to pet the animals too. Yopi disappeared briefly and came back and said, "It's okay, I asked the man, you can go in and cuddle the animals." Peter was delighted, went into the enclosure and picked up a baby rabbit. I said to Yopi, "What did you say to him?" I told him Peter was my brother who's a bit simple." I said he's allowed out of the home this weekend and he'd love to pat the animals. And the guy took pity on him. In recent years, Yopi and Summer moved out of Melbourne and settled in an old weatherboard house in country Victoria. Yopi fell in love with the house at first sight. She said when you walked in, it was like the house gave you a hug. It had been neglected over the years and needed heaps of work, but Yopi saw the potential. She had work done over time, and anyone who's stayed there will know it was a true reflection of Yopi's personality. The bedrooms were different colours, so sometimes you were in the blue room and sometimes you were in the red room. The kitchen was orange with green cabinets, but somehow it worked. She filled the house with second-hand furniture and created a true eclectic style. We had quite different tastes, and sometimes she sent me photos of her latest purchase. But knowing I probably wouldn't like it, would say, "But it looks better in real life." And sometimes it did. She loved nothing more than pottering around the garden and created her own little country paradise. I have many happy memories of my friendship with Yopi. Walking the dogs on Hampton Beach, camping on the Murray in Echuca, skiing on Mount Buffalo, lunches at Fed Square, taking the kids to horse riding in Red Hill, moving house numerous times, and many, many hours putting the world to rights over coffee. As we all know, Yopi died far too young. I stayed in Benalla in the last weeks of her life and visited her every day at the hospital. She always had a list of things for me to do and remained bossy till the end. She was told she wouldn't see Christmas, but being ever defiant did exactly that. Yopi has left a large hole in many people's lives, but today is about getting together to remember the good times. Yopi had joked that a gathering today should be called the Yopi Roast, where we recall our Yopi stories and experiences. So don't hold back, share your stories, make jokes about her, and remember her with laughter and a smile. I'd like to now hand over to Mauricio, who was Yopi's long-suffering program manager.